Defining IP address and MAC address. An IP address, Internet Protocol address, and a MAC address, Media Access Control address, are both unique identifiers used in computer networks, but they serve different purposes. The IP address is used for identifying devices on a network and routing data, while the MAC address is a hardware-specific identifier used for communication within the local network. IP address. Identifying devices on a network. An IP address is a numerical label assigned to each device connected to a computer network, serving as the address for routing data between devices across different networks. IP addresses can either be IPv4, 32-bit, or IPv6, 128-bit, with IPv4 being the most common. They help devices communicate over the internet or local networks. MAC address. Unique hardware identifier. A MAC address is a unique identifier assigned to the network interface card, NIC, of a device. It is embedded in the hardware during manufacturing and is used to identify devices on a local network. MAC addresses are typically 48-bit hexadecimal numbers and are essential for low-level network communication like Ethernet or Wi-Fi. Purpose. Routing versus local communication. The primary purpose of an IP address is to enable devices to be located and communicate across networks, such as the Internet. It helps route data packets to the correct destination. In contrast, a MAC address is used for local communication, allowing devices to identify each other within the same network segment, e.g., a home Wi-Fi network. Dynamic versus static assignment. IP addresses can be dynamic or static. A dynamic IP address is assigned by a DHCP server and may change over time, while a static IP address is manually set and remains fixed. On the other hand, MAC addresses are permanently assigned to a device's network interface and do not change, providing a stable identifier for the hardware. Level of communication. Network versus data link. IP addresses operate at the network layer, Layer 3, of the OSI model, which deals with logical addressing and routing of data. MAC addresses function at the data link layer, Layer 2, which handles physical addressing and data transfer within a local network. The two addresses work together to facilitate communication. Global versus local scope. An IP address is globally unique, ensuring that devices can be reached over the Internet or across different networks. It can represent devices anywhere in the world. In contrast, a MAC address is unique to the device's hardware but only has significance within a local network. It is used to identify devices for direct communication within the same network. IP address and MAC address in network operations. When data is sent over a network, it typically uses both addresses. The IP address is used to route the data across networks, while the MAC address is used to deliver the data to the correct device within the local network. Routers and switches use these addresses to ensure that data reaches the intended recipient. Security and privacy considerations. IP addresses can be used to track the location of devices and users, as they are assigned by Internet service providers and can often be tied to geographical regions. MAC addresses, however, are typically used for local network identification and are not easily traceable beyond the network. In some cases, devices can spoof their MAC address for privacy or security purposes. Changing and cloning of addresses. While IP addresses can change dynamically, especially in the case of DHCP, users can manually configure static IP addresses if needed. MAC addresses are less flexible but can be changed or spoofed through software, although this is typically done for specific security or network administration purposes rather than for everyday use. Usage in networking devices. Routers, switches, and other networking devices rely on both IP and MAC addresses for their operations. Routers use IP addresses to direct traffic between networks, while switches use MAC addresses to forward data to the correct device within a local area network, LAN. Both addresses play complementary roles in network communication.